Okay, we're out at the boat now. I just got her all set up to put the mast up. So I've since redid the Jin Pole here. Made a new system, so I'm gonna throw the mast up here. Ease her in. Okay. I think that's it.
The flashing red light in the corner means it's rolling, right?
Yep. I can leave it at just... Is that pretty wild or what, eh?
That's great. Wow, you make it look easy.
Dude, years to try to figure this out. Hang that up there. Oh, caught the back stay there. That's it.
Wow, that's great.
Pretty wild, eh?
That took about 5 minutes.
Okay, so the mast is up. You can see what everything kind of looks like. I just threw the forestay on just to hold everything up, but the jig is pretty much, the raising jig is pretty much slackened off. We'll have to see if he got any good footage of all this stuff working, but what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna take all this apart. Okay, so we're gonna have a look at the jig I made here. So first off, we'll start with the Jin Pole. There we go. Fix some of the exposure here. All right, so this is made out of 1-inch electrical conduit I picked up from like Home Depot. I think this is a 10-foot length that I cut in half. Yeah, so this is right at 5 feet, so you can take a 10-foot, cut it in half. The outers are made out of 1-inch electrical conduit. Like I said, there's a piece of 3/4 that fits inside, so all this stuff collapses. So there's a retracted position, and then extended is right about here. I got a black mark there. The hole lines up. And that's to help it fit in the boat a lot easier. Up at the top here I have, it's just a threaded eye loop. It's got the threaded rod on it. It's just stuck down in the tube here, and I just welded it on and made sure to weld. Usually these threaded eye loops have a gap in them. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, it's just one of these guys. I cut the end off a whole bunch down here, just made it short, and then just welded it in there. But you got to make sure you weld this gap closed, or else there's a chance that the forces on it might pull that open. So that's what I use for there. You could probably use any kind of ring in there, it doesn't really matter. I just squash the pipe kind of flat with a hammer to give a good welding surface around there. Here I just have some like woodworking metal T-brackets. They used to be longer, but I just drilled it out, put a bolt through, and then cut the extra end off, rounded it off, make it nice and smooth. This is tack welded on. You could probably do that with bolts if you wanted to. I don't know if you guys are getting shaded there. And then it's just a typical, I think it's an 8 mil bolt through there, lock nut, a couple of washers, and it's just snugged up. It's not overly tight, just snug enough so this pivots. Now I did a different system than what I did for the Jin Pole, or not the Jin Pole, the stabilization jig for the back of the mast. We'll look at that in a minute. I opted to kind of cut slots in here so they fit the rings. I'll show you the rings up in the front by the mast foot there in a second, and then just drill holes and put pins through. Now these holes have to be cut obviously deep enough so that it goes over the ring, you can get the pin in, but also that these pipes can pivot enough and the ring can, you know, has room to move, right? So we'll go up and look and see what that looks like up in the front. So it might not go in that well because it's lying down. I have to pick it up a bit, like that. I'm gonna do the other side. Camera fell down. And there you go. And that's it. So you can see it holds it up a bit because those slots on the back side are cut a little small. I don't think, yeah, see it's bottoming it on the hinge a bit too. So the important part of this one, you can see it now. This doesn't line up with the mast, right? But when it's extended, and I'll just hold it here because I forgot the pin, you can see it's almost dead center with the mast. So you have to make sure when you cut this, you can see how it looks like it's off center, but the top is pretty much lined up with the mast, so that when it's pulling dead center. All right, now this obviously when you're winching all this up, it's on an angle, but if you can minimize the offset, this system should work pretty good. If you want to try and do a true triangular one and have them meet at the middle here, right here, you can shuffle this a bit over and then have just a straight pipe welded on. But I opted for this because of the material I had left over was all I could do, and I just had to cut it right so that, oop, this piece is stuck now. Just had to make sure I cut it right so that it comes really close to the center of the mast. What I used to haul it up was the main sheet. You know, what is this, a 5-to-1 or something like that? Got a piece of Dyneema. I just went off the cleat, the anchor cleat on the bow of the boat. I just wrapped this around twice and hooked it back in there. And yeah, and then this side, just put a D-ring on there. Nice stainless D-ring, and it hooks into the loop on the front of the Jin Pole there. Okay, now for the mast stabilization jig. So this guy is made out of 3/4 inch EDM conduit, 1 10-foot length cut in half, and the inner is 1/2 inch EDM conduit, 10-foot length cut in half. With those dimensions, it gives me 9 feet of total and 5'4" collapse. Just an outhaul slug. All right, you can see I sanded it all down so I could fit the mast track properly. It was just a little bit too big, and then it's just held in with a single bolt here. So all it is just a piece of flat steel. I wrapped it around, you know, where you would tie your sail to, and just kind of crushed it in a vise, put a bolt in there to keep this bar from being able to pivot on this mast slug. It has to be held firm and straight so these, you know, will rotate as one. All right, so that's just a pinch bolt here, and then I put a nut in between to give it some gap, so it has some like leverage to work on when stuff is trying to push it side to side, right? There's a bit of width there, all right? And that's just held on to the end of this one pole by a couple of washers to give it some, you know, some free pivot so it's not binding up or anything. Then the other pole goes on the other side, like so. I put another washer inside, washer on the outside, and then the nut. And all this stuff is just kind of finger tight. It's not cinched down or anything. It just needs to keep the mast somewhat centered, right? So let me take this off. There's another picture of it. You can see I had to sand here, and that's only because my mast has a sail guide track on it. So in order to make this corner right here, I had to sand the edges so it can recess into the mast just a little bit and then slide up, and that's it. Just slides in the mast. I haven't had any problems with it binding up yet, going up or down, so your mileage may vary. And that's it. Okay, we're gonna look at the poles. So like I said, 3/4 inch outer, just electrical conduit, 1/2 inch inner. This curve, I kind of just put the pipe on a sandbag and mashed this in with a ball peen hammer. Let's take it apart here. You can see I just ball peen hammered it as smooth as I could to give it a nice smooth curve here, so there's less likely chance of this thing, you know, bending on its own, right? And I just went a little bit at a time. I built both sides first, and then basically I just sat the other end on the deck and then kind of looked at the angle, went, hit it with the hammer, brought it up, looked at the angle, and did the same thing on both of them. Now you can see this is marked with an S, that one's marked with a P. There are sides, just because this stuff is not like exactly geometrically centered on the boat. You know, it's done by measuring tape and Sharpie. So just to eliminate any slight differences in the build, I made sure to mark them as port and starboard, so that any of the errors in mounting the deck hardware, which I'll look at in a second, is fixed in this pole, and any errors mounting the deck hardware on the port side is fixed in this pole, right? So everything centers up. Let me get this all apart. So there's the inner pole, just 1/2 inch EDM cut in half. It's 5 feet long. Measuring tape. Yeah, it's just a little bit less than 5 feet. All right, I might have cut a bit off the front of it there or something, but it's 5 feet long. There's about a 1 foot overlap when these are together. So it's right around, yeah, it's 13-inch overlap. And that gives you about 9 feet in total length. All right, the electrical tape is on here just to keep the poles kind of fit nice together and don't bang around, rattle around, stuff like that. Not sure if you can do without it, but I just wrapped it until it fit snug, and that was it. And that just fits in. Just fits in like that. And I put indexing marks just to make sure the holes here line up properly. If I flip it around the other way, 180, yeah, you can see they're a little bit off. Again, this isn't drilled exactly bang on center, so indexing marks so that the holes line up nice. And that's the extended length, is right around 9 feet. Like that. So you got your 3/4 inch outer. The end is just mash flat. Now you'll see that I did slightly different than, well, I did this style first and then I built the Jin Pole different. Just using a shackle, that's what they're called. It's just a shackle here that fits on the, again, the pickup truck deck tie downs that are screwed to the boat here. And I just smashed the tube flat till this fit. You just get one that just fits in the tube, and then I put a pinch bolt in there so it can't come out. I didn't really want to weld this shackle in there solid. I was worried about being able to get to this pin and unscrew it. Some of the angles get pretty tight. And I'll go put this on in a second. We'll have a look at it and you can see what it looks like. So the D-rings on the boat here, or the pickup truck bed tie downs, whatever you want to call them. Again, stainless steel ring. Just picked them up at Canadian Tire. It's a tie down. This is bolted and screwed through with nuts on the back and big washers. Probably didn't need to go that crazy with it because I don't think there's a whole lot of load here. But I just kind of centered these up with the jib sheet pulleys here. Got them like kind of close. I measured it, the distance here, and I did the same on the other side and just kind of got it close, right? Again, it's not exactly accurate. I try my best to be accurate, but who's to say that these are even in the same spot on the boat in the first place, right? So that's what I did with there. Again, screwed, washers, nuts, lock nuts, and that's it. Now I'll line this up with the mast here, and that's about how it sits. So you can see it's pretty tight to get your fingers in there and get the pin out of that shackle. So that's why I gave myself room to be able to pull on this and wiggle it, so I can get this pin out if I have to. If I was gonna do it again, I think I would mount these, turn these tie downs 90 degrees and have them facing this way, and then maybe do the same as I did with the Jin Pole up there and just cut slots in here to fit the D-ring and put a pin through. Again, you'd have to watch how you cut those slots because it has to be able to smoothly transition over the ring when it's turned this way. I'll leave that up to you guys if you want to try and copy this system, but that's about the angle there. Another thing that's important too is when you build this, when this is down, you have to make sure that this is going to pivot. So this is about the range it moves from down to up. So because you're locking the pipes with the pins, you have to make sure that the angle you lock on will rotate through this easily. Like if you put it like this, when you put it together, you could see that I'm trying to put it, doesn't want to go. It's trying to twist the pipe, see? So when you build this yourself, you have to make sure that you might want to be, it looks like perpendicular. You want your shackle to be perpendicular to this part of the ring here. See where the center of the ring is? You want it perpendicular to that, so that as it comes up, it can slide and roll up over without turning the pipe. All right, so be wary of that. Bolting the washer on here. Like that. Another washer on, and the outhaul slug goes on there. And just to make sure this doesn't all fall apart, another big washer, another big washer. Nuts on backwards. There we go. So when you put this together, you can see the pipe is in its kind of almost retracted stowed state. Just slide this up until your marks line up here. There they are. And put the pin in. Can't see it, but hard to do all this with one hand. See if I can get a video of that now. Take the nut off. One washer. I could extend this pull, make this a lot easier. Again, one-handed is not so easy. Okay, that's just kind of loose for now. Pull our pin out here. And leave the pin out. Hook this side up. again, one-handed. There we go. And then once those are on, just snug this bolt up, make sure it's all tight and close together. That's it. Just by hand. Now it's ready to come down again. So that just clips on like that. And then I pre-tension it a bit. So this pipe is not all the way down, and I need room as well for the main sheet to fit on there. Yeah, that should be enough room. So I just put this in that cleat to hold it. Then a couple of wraps around here. Like that. To make sure that doesn't come off. Definitely make sure, because this is what's pulling up everything, so make sure this stuff is secured. All right, let's grab the main sheet. Take that off. I guess I could turn the D-ring around so the thing is on the other side, but maybe next time. Again, only a problem with one hand. I guess this is a good practice for if I ever hurt myself. I can't do it myself. I do 2 passes through here. Like that. Put the pulley back in. There you go. As you can see, it's a nice angle all the way up the mast. That's the mast raising jig I made. Another quick look at it here. Again, just make sure everything's all snug and tight before you get into it. But once you figure out how this system works, it only really takes about maybe 10 or 15 minutes to actually set it up. Even less time now if I leave these mast stabilization jigs, just leave them right on the boat. My screen would turn on, there we go. And get the mast stabilization jigs here, just leave them attached to the boat. You know, you don't even have to collapse any of the legs or anything, just leave them long because they're short enough they don't hit the mast crutch here, which I have to redo, by the way. I'm gonna put a roller on this. Yeah, you can just leave that on the boat. You could probably leave the Jin Pole on the boat too. You'd probably want to tie it down so it's not banging around the mast or anything, or you know, lay it forward and leave it strapped down to the deck or something. But yeah, it if you see in the video, but it works really good. Like, I was shaking the boat side to side and the mast didn't move anywhere. You could probably do this easily on the water with this setup. All right, so that's that. I'm going to edit this. You know, I'm no pro star video guy or anything. So we'll see. Thanks for watching, and I hope it helps.